YouTube, oh my goodness, folks, what an action-packed first round of the NBA draft last night at the time of recording this video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel because I will be doing a full first round breakdown and grading every single first round pick by every team here in a few days. So make sure you guys subscribe if you guys don't want to miss that. But for this video in particular, I want to talk about the winners and the losers of the first round of the 2024 NBA draft. You know, there's a whole lot of winners in my opinion, right? We're not going to talk about every single one, but we are going to talk about some of the big ones, right? And for the losers, just to, disclaimer real quick, I like all the players that were drafted, you know what I mean? I don't think the players are the losers. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, maybe the fit or the team that selected them maybe reached a little high for the player, or, the value wasn't that great for that position. So that's kind of what I mean by loser. It's not really about the player individually. Winners and losers of the 2024 NBA draft. Let's talk about it, folks. Another disclaimer before I get into it, right? I'm not a draft expert. In fact, I don't even watch college basketball, but I have been following the NBA draft coverage quite a bit, and I like to think I have some pretty solid takes on the NBA, right? So again, not an expert, just wanted to clarify. But let's start with the winners of the 2024 NBA draft. As I mentioned, I could probably name 15 winners or so, but for this video, we're going to narrow it down to the most clear winners to me. And starting off with the Utah Jazz, right? To get a player like Cody Williams all the way at the 10th pick in the draft, what a steal. I mean, this kid is versatile. You take a look at what his brother's done in the league, the people are saying he's not going to be quite that good, but there is still plenty of room to get better for Cody Williams. I think he has a super high ceiling in this league. And I think for the Jazz, the pick makes sense, right? A common theme with the Jazz has been taking athletes, right? And they have a nice young core they're building in Utah. You already have a superstar in Larry Markkinen. We'll see how that turns up with the offseason, if he gets traded or not. You bring in a guy last year in, Keontae George at point guard, and that could be your point guard in the future. There's a lot there that you can work with Keontae George, and still have some good pieces like Jordan Clarkson and, Walker Kessler at that center position. There's a lot to like with the Utah Jazz in their future, not to mention they have so many draft picks moving forward in the NBA. So Utah Jazz come out, get Cody Williams, who I like as a prospect out of Colorado. He has struggled a little bit with consistency and shooting at times, but he is a good athlete and a two-way versatile player. I think the wing position was super strong in this class, even though it wasn't a super top-heavy class, right? But I think Cody Williams is a great pick at 10th overall for the Jazz. I think he's got a bright future in this league. And then you get all the way at 29 in the draft, you get Isaiah Collier, right? Isaiah Collier, from USC, coming into the college season, was the #1 recruit of that class. And to be able to get him at 29, I mean, I know he's had some, issues at USC, right? Sometimes his decision-making was a little lackluster. Maybe he's not ever going to be a great three-point shooter or, floor spacer at that point guard position, but this guy is a bully in the paint for a point guard. I mean, he is a really talented player. There's a reason he was the #1 recruit in this class, and that is because of his, innate ability to get to the rim and finish through content. He's a really strong physical guard who can just punish, smaller guards in the paint. And I think, this is a great high value, pick for the Utah Jazz, right? Late in the draft, I think in the first round and the second round, you just take some swings on some high upside guys, right? And that's what the Jazz did here. I think it's a great move for Utah to be taking a guy with such high upside, or maybe, it could be that he's not an NBA caliber point guard, right? We'll just have to see. But again, I think late in the draft, you take those swings on those high upside guys. Love the draft for the Jazz. They're a clear winner for me. The second winner, I have to mention is the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, I made a video this season right after the Timberwolves were eliminated in the playoffs that, basically described their biggest issue as a secondary scoring ball handler, right? Someone who can create their own offense to be able to take the pressure off of Anthony Edwards in the playoffs, right? You have Karl Anthony Towns, and he's a great scorer and a good #2 option, offensively, but he is not a shot creator that can, just take the ball up from half court and just get his own shot consistently, right? So this guy has to be set up, and that put a ton of pressure on Anthony Edwards. Mike Conley's a good point guard. He's a good stabilizer for that team, but there were times in those playoffs where, Kyle Anderson was the secondary ball handler at times when Conley was injured or on the bench, right? So the Timberwolves, see that as a clear problem, right? And they go up all the way to the 8th pick and trade for it with 2 future first-round picks to the Spurs, and they select Rob Dillingham out of Kentucky. And, when in doubt, take a Kentucky guard, right? Because they just always seem to pan out at the next level. Rob Dillingham is a little bit undersized. That's probably all you're going to hear about, but listen, man, this guy is a bucket, right? He is just an instant offense type of player. He's a good shot creator. He's a great, speedy, smaller guard, right? He's got a ton of burst as, from that guard position. I think, some of his issues will be, getting to the rim and finishing through contact, but because of his size, he's about 6'1", 170. But listen, man, Jay Billis ended up saying this last night, and it made a lot of sense to me. If you're good enough, you're big enough, right? And I think Rob Dillingham is one of those guys. He's got so much offensive game to him. And I just love that move for the Timberwolves, being so aggressive aggressive and saying, you know what, this is our issue. We're not going to wait around. We're going to go get our guy at 8th overall. And it was just a great pick for them, right? And then in the back half of the first round, you end up taking Terrence Shannon Jr., the guard out of Illinois, right? He's more of a wing and has a lot of, athleticism and open court, transition offense to him. He's aggressive, gotten better as a shooter. So I think, listen, the Minnesota Timberwolves hit a home run in this draft. They got their guy. They got, fixed the issue that they had, which was, I think Rob Dillingham's going to be a 6-man. So you're getting a guy that can come off the bench and just get you a bunch of buckets when your offense is getting kind of stagnant. I think that's such a big, really awesome pickup for Minnesota. Clear winner of this draft by far for me. Let's talk about the Washington Wizards, right? So they have the number 2 pick in this draft. They end up taking Alex Sarr, which was the right pick in my opinion. Alex Sarr, a super, young project kind of development piece that I think might end up having the highest upside in this entire draft, might have the highest ceiling potential, right? So, you hit a home run with that pick. Obviously, that's definitely the right pick there, but then you also end up getting 2 extra first round picks, right? And so the Wizards investing in their future, right? This is a long-term rebuild type of team with some good young pieces. You trade Denny Avdia earlier in the night for Malcolm Brogdon, who I would assume would be on the move, but you, like I said, in Washington, you have some young pieces like Bilal Coulibaly, who got in last year's draft, and he seems to be a home run pick for them. Still got guys like Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Poole on the roster, Corey Kispert. Now you bring in Alex Sarr, and you end up getting, as I said, 2 extra first round picks out of it, right? One of them being Bub Carrington, who was selected at 14th overall and then traded to Washington. And a lot of people really like this guard out of Pittsburgh, right? He was one of the highest ranked guards in the draft. He's got good size to him, 6'4", 190, right? He seems to be a 2 guard. I don't know a ton about this guy, I'll be honest with you, but everyone's saying he has a good feel for the game. He's got a good mid-range offensive game to him. So I think this is a good pick for Washington. And then, later in the draft, like I said, you end up getting Keyshawn George, the forward out of Miami, who is 6'7", 205, who again, you got in a trade with the Knicks. And this is a big wing with, good 3-point shooting from what I understand. People say he's got good instincts and a lot of, potential as a big wing. So I think, again, this is a really great draft for the Washington Wizards. Maybe entered a rebuild a little bit too late with that Bradley Beal situation, but now it really seems like they're committed to turning things around in Washington, and you gotta love the chances with these 3 young players they got in this draft, and particularly Alex Sarr, you know what I mean? So to be able to get a guy with that high of an upside at number 2 overall, I think is a really great, draft for Washington Wizards. You got to be happy with that outcome, right? So a couple more winners, one of them being the Los Angeles Lakers, who end up getting Dalton Knecht at 17th overall. He fell all the way to the Lakers. This was a guy people were saying could be a top 10 pick, and certainly has a lot of offensive, firepower as a shooter, right? This is a guy that can, step in right away and be a consistent catch and shoot guy for the Lakers, hopefully. But that is the projection. People say he has a really well-rounded, polished offensive game, maybe more than some of the other wings in this class. And I think you got to really like that upside if you're Los Angeles Lakers, right? This is a guy that, even at the worst, right, he could just be a catch and shoot kind of guy off the bench, right? At his best, he could be, a really solid offensive scorer. And people say he has defensive limitations, but I really like, the pick by Los Angeles. Obviously, the clear pick for them, him sliding all the way down to 17, and you get kind of a steal in that 17th pick. So definite W by the Lakers. And then the last one I wanted to mention would end up being the Phoenix Suns, right? The Phoenix Suns end up getting Ryan Dunn out of Virginia, and they actually traded down with the Denver Nuggets, right? But they still end up with Ryan Dunn. And the reason I put this in the winners column, right? This is a 28th overall pick. And, apparently Ryan Dunn has some issues offensively, but the reason I love this pick so much, why I think it's such a W for the Suns, is late in the draft, you get maybe the best defensive wing in the entire class, right? People are saying this is an all NBA defensive caliber player in the future. And, a name that kind of comes to mind, being a Sixers fan, is Matisse Thybulle, right? A lot of the comparisons I saw, and just kind of this ability and skill set coming out of the draft reminds me of Matisse Thybulle. They say Ryan Dunn has, some struggles offensively, not a great shooter, right? But if he can, similar to Matisse Thybulle, if he can develop a league average 3-point shot in the corner, you know what I mean? And just, be a good cutter and stuff like that, I think this guy has a really big role in the Suns organization moving forward. And the Suns just need defenders, man. They've needed defenders. So getting potentially the best defensive wing in the class who's able to just make plays, create turnovers, and lock down people in the half-court setting, this is a guy that I think could really help out the Suns next year, right? So have to see about the offense, but those are the winners for me in the 2024 NBA draft first round. There's a lot more I could mention. Again, I think everyone did pretty well. I'm not even super against some of the losers I'm going to put in this list. I think just compared to everyone else, I think they kind of made some, kind of weird choices, right? And so the first loser is going to be every team that didn't have a first round pick. What are we doing? What are we doing? And those teams include the Brooklyn Nets, which somehow through all the, the Mikal Bridges trade, they still don't have a first round pick this year. The LA Clippers, right? And, by the way, can we just talk about what is this new logo, right? What is the new Clippers logo? Have you guys seen this? This is insane to me. All right, I'm gonna move past it. The Pacers, the Warriors, and the Mavs. Get your pick situation together, folks. I know you guys made trades, but you know, come on, we gotta be better than that, right? The two losers I'm gonna, you know, really speak on in terms of the draft was the Grizzlies and the Blazers, right? And the Blazers I'm gonna start with because people are gonna call me crazy for this because, you know, in my opinion, Donovan Kingan is one of the best, you know, center prospects that not only in this draft, but I just really like this prospect, right? Donovan Kingan's a big guy, 7'2", you know, it's kind of a traditional rim runner center, but he has elite defensive rim protection upside. You know, everything they say about this guy, he just contests every, you know, basket at the rim. He's a great offensive rebounder. He's going to get you at least, you know, he's going to be a double-double candidate, right? But a solid, you know, big man rim protection. He moves in space pretty well, they say, for his size, and he has good instincts, feel for the game. He's a good passer, right? But, you know, they worry about maybe his offensive game a little bit. I just love the prospect, right? That's not why he's the Blazers are on the loser list, right? The Blazers take him 7th overall. What I'm wondering is like, why, right? I mean, I know he's the best player available, and that's kind of what they're doing there, but they already have two really good centers and kind of a logjam at center as it is with DeAndre Ayton, who you're paying so much money to, and Robert Williams, who was a big part of that Drew Holiday trade you made with the Celtics, right? So what exactly is the goal here? You know what I mean? That's just kind of what I'm confused. I just don't understand what the plan is at center for the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, best case scenario, right? Donovan Kingan turns out to be a really great NBA center, and maybe you can move on from those other pieces so you don't have to, you know, invest so much into them, but you've already invested so much into the center position and you're pretty long away from contention, I would say. I just kind of don't understand Kingan for the Trailblazers, right? If he would have went to a lot of other teams, you know, around that range, particularly Memphis, who we'll get into, I would have thought this is an A+ pick, but which we'll get into that, like I said, but Kingan to the Trailblazers, I don't love it for them, right? It's more so I don't love it for him, I guess I should say. And that brings me to the Memphis Grizzlies, who were active in trade talks with the Portland Trailblazers and teams up there in that range, who took Zack Edy with the 9th pick, the Grizzlies, right? But they were trying to get Donovan Kingan. It's clear that, you know, since the Steven Adams trade, this Memphis Grizzlies squad needs a center and a reliable one, right? It ain't Jaren Jackson Jr. You know, he's not a center, right? So they miss out on Kingan, right? Because, you know, they have the 9th pick, Trailblazers have the 7th pick. They tried to, you know, trade up for the Hornets pick. They end up picking someone different, but bottom line is Memphis Grizzlies, you know, miss out on Kingan, who I thought would have been a perfect fit for that team. I mean, what they do in that system, I just thought Kingan was the perfect guy. They ended up taking, you know, maybe the second best center in the class, and that is Zack Edy, right? Zack Edy is a massive human being, one of the biggest center prospects we've seen in a while. 7'4", 300 pounds, right? This guy is a monster mismatch offensively, right? And so there are a lot of worries about his defensive game, right? Apparently he's pretty slow-footed and doesn't move well. And I think, you know, in the Western Conference and just in the NBA in general, man, teams are going to speed you up, right? And so being able to get up and down the floor in a system like the Memphis Grizzlies have, it's going to be really important. And that makes me wonder, will Zack Edy ever be a starting, you know, 30 minutes a game center in this league? Or you're going to have to stagger him with a more, you know, well-rounded center minutes wise, right? Like throughout his career, you know, apparently he's in good shape for a guy of his size, which is pretty rare. But I just wonder about the defensive mobility, right? I wonder how long you're going to be able to keep him on the court at any given time. You know, is this a guy you can start confidently? I will say I do love the pairing with him and Jaren Jackson. I think that is the type of center you need to pair with Triple J, a large, you know, dominant interior guy who can focus on the rebounds and stuff like that, and kind of just like, you know, allow Triple J to work on the perimeter more offensively and allow him to be like kind of a roaming free safety on defense and block all those weak side shots, right? So the pairing's good there. The reason I have both of these teams, I took a long way to get here, right? But the reason I have both these teams in the loser column is because I wish the Trailblazers and the Grizzlies would just trade each other their picks, right? The Grizzlies could give up maybe something a little extra, like a, you know, future first round pick, and end up, you know, trading Zack Edy to the Portland Trailblazers, right? Like maybe a guy who is more of a specialist, right? Like this is a guy, Zack Edy, that you can put in the game to abuse mismatches, right? Offensively. And then maybe 6 minutes goes by and you take him out of the game because, you know, you want more of a defensive lineup. To me, Kingan is a starting caliber center. I mean, he's going to slide in right away to a team like the Grizzlies and be their starting center of the future. You know, he's that talented right now, in my opinion. So with the Trailblazers having two competent centers already, why not just kind of plug Zack Edy in when you want to abuse some mismatches and, you know, be kind of a dominant presence down there offensively. And then for the rest of the game, you can kind of stagger DeAndre Ayton. One of those guys would need to go, probably Robert Williams. But my point is they should trade each other their centers. You know, they're just better fits in both scenarios. And I think that is why they're losers, in my opinion. These teams both drafted the wrong guy, and it's so unfortunate. The position of the draft board ended up the way it did because they had to do it, right? I think Kingan in Memphis would be so great. So great. The fit would be perfect. Either way you look at it, man, let me know down in the comment section what you think of, my winners and losers. Who else do you think I could have added to this list? I have a big, long list of winners, but if you guys want to see my full analysis of grading every NBA team's draft pick in the first round, let me know down in the comments. I'll be posting that, in a few days. Like I said, just gotta, write a script a little bit, but I will be posting that. So make sure you guys stick around and subscribe to the channel if you guys don't want to miss it. We post NBA content every single day on this channel. And, I want to share my passion for basketball with you guys every day. So all things NBA every day on the DHave channel. The free agency's coming up on Sunday. I can't wait. I'm a Sixers fan, so it's gonna be a big, kind of day for me. But every, big free agent signing, every trade, we'll cover all the NBA news. There was tons of, news around the draft, right? Like trades and re-signing, extensions. I'll be doing a video on that probably Sunday or Monday, right? Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys subscribe if you guys don't want to miss any future NBA content. Like I said, every day on the channel, it's gonna be here. New videos every day. I'll catch you guys in the next one. This is your boy D-Have, and as always, peace.